the past like 7 years of my life, I'd be like sitting at home on a computer and just daydreaming about doing this all the time, and just being like, oh, I need to do this. I need to get it out of my system. I need to live that adventure, meet those people. Do like, if I don't do it, I'll never know. You know, as risky as it is, if I don't do it, I'll never know. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
Get inspired. Transform your life. Welcome to Best Interest Radio.
I don't take many supplements, but one of them that I do take is magnesium, because I've come to find out that studies have shown most people are deficient in magnesium because modern agriculture has caused a depletion of minerals in our soil. And that's why my favorite company, Biooptimizers, decided to take all 7 forms of magnesium and combine them into one supplement called Magnesium Breakthrough. So if you want a safe and effective way to manage stress, sleep, aches and pains, check out the link in the description to get a discount on Magnesium Breakthrough. And if you're listening between November 26th and November 30th, they're having an amazing Black Friday sale. If not, the link's still there.
Today on the podcast, we have Pierre-Luc Arseneau, and we ended up meeting actually technically a year ago in the SEPS sauna. Now, SEPS is like a gym in Moncton at the University of Moncton, or UDM, Université de Moncton. And anyways, it was kind of funny because I was there with my friend Olivier, who I did a podcast with. If you haven't checked that out, check it out, because it's pretty cool. He has a pretty cool story to share. He's an interesting guy. And anyways, me, Olivier, was in the sauna, and Pierre happened to be there while we were there. And he said to us, like, hey, you guys should do a podcast like in a sauna, like a sauna kind of based podcast where you do the podcast in the sauna. Because we were talking about the podcast I was starting, which I didn't actually release until February, so months later. But anyway, it was kind of cool because then how we actually connected was, you know, months went by and I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw the People of Moncton, which is a page and YouTube channel that, you know, they highlight stories of people in Moncton, New Brunswick, and kind of zoom into their lives and get their, you know, their history and what they do for a living, and it kind of varies, and it's pretty cool stuff that they're doing. But Pierre-Luc Arseneau was featured on that as and they were highlighting his mountain biking, which I thought was pretty cool because I do mountain biking as a hobby. I'm not quite as intense as Pierre, but you know, I still do it for fun. So I followed him, and then I think he must have recognized me from the sauna and messaged me, and he was like, hey man, I think we met before at SEPS. Like, I was like, SEPS? And he's like, in the sauna. I was like, and then he's like, it all just came back to me. And yeah, just to give you kind of a funny little background, we actually just this is a deja vu for us because I just tried recording this, but I forgot to hit record. But that's the problem with technology. So anyways, that's how we met. And we were kind of just talking about how it's cool how stuff kind of goes full circle, and you'll meet people at certain points, and sometimes you might see them in the moment as just passerbys, but later on they show up and they play a certain role in our lives. So it's called serendipity, right place in the right time.
Serendipity, yeah.
Yeah.
Did earlier.
Yeah,
that was crazy, man. That sauna podcast, I guess, never happened, but you were saying that apparently somebody else has been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, that's right. I was just scrolling on the internet the other day, and I came across a sauna podcast, and I was like, of course. And oh yeah, then we were talking about how, you know, when you have a thought, when you have the idea of something, chances are they say that's, you know, somebody's already working on it because it's in that thought realm. Because if you think of us as all interconnected, like we're super advanced computers and we're connected to like this, you know, the internet of life or the universe, whatever you want to call it, somebody is also thinking it. So the question is, are you going to be the one that's going to bring it to fruition, or are you going to let someone else do it? Because, you know, like when Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb and stuff, and Alexander Graham Bell was inventing the telephone. There were other people during that time in different parts of the world working on the same or similar thing, and they were the ones that kind of just patented it and, you know, were the first ones to bring it to the public. So I think that's a cool lesson of what we can do with our lives.
It is for sure, yeah. But then the sauna closed over COVID, and I never got the chance to try it out, man.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? I freaking missed that sauna. That was like one of the best in Moncton.
It is definitely where I am right now in Squamish, British Columbia. Like, there seems to be no saunas in any gym here.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of been like something missing, man. I almost thought about like starting something with like a sauna, just to like
really
like a
Man.
recovery center or something. Just like rent a place and get some saunas and some cold baths and be like, hey, it's a recovery center.
Man.
There's so many athletes here. I'm sure it would work like perfect.
Man, that's a good idea. I actually want to start something like that here in Moncton with best interest, sort of like a biohacking human upgrade center where you can go do saunas and cold baths and train and stuff.
Biohacking, that's a word I haven't heard many times before. You must know Ben Greenfield, I guess.
Oh man, Ben Greenfield's probably like the number one podcast I listen to out of all of them. I started with Dave Asprey's podcast, Bulletproof Radio, but
yeah. He's on there all the time, I guess.
Yeah, man, I've learned a lot of stuff from them.
He's on the
Oh yeah. Do you do any biohacks? Or what do you consider a biohack, or what the term?
Good question. I do have blue light blocking glasses, but that's about it, man.
So do I.
There's like a bunch of stuff that Ben talks about all the time where he like puts caffeine up his butt and does shit. I'm just like, you know what, man? I think I'll just stick to fruit and try to do my best.
Coffee enemas. I was joking with my girlfriend the other day about how I was going to get her to help me do some coffee enemas. But man, jokes aside, I've learned a lot from those guys. They're actually listening to podcasts like that are what helped me lose 115 pounds and become healthy in the way that I did.
Man, it's honestly such a great time to be alive for that, because I feel like we have so much information available to us. Can you imagine like all those super intelligent people that go on these podcasts that have done incredible things, and like maybe 40, 50 years ago there would have been no way to reach out to those people, to know their story, to know what worked, to know what didn't work. And now all we need to do is just go to like Apple Podcast or Spotify and just hit a podcast and get all that free information, man, from like the best university professors. It's kind of like mind-blowing, man, all for free.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I always like to imagine, like, as sort of humor, if like Jesus or Buddha had a Facebook or Twitter account, or like or their own podcast or something like that. There's all the stuff, not even them, but just like even just back in the day, like Shakespeare was like on Twitter. Like, what would he say?
I know. It would change his whole thing. Yeah, for sure.
Some funny stuff, but I think it's cool too because it's kind of something you'll have to show the grandkids.
Yeah, if it's still around.
Yeah,
whenever they're around or whatever. Yeah.
If the internet's still around.
Yeah, if there's not like a revolution up to there and everybody's just like, fuck this, fuck the internet, I just want to go outside and meet with people.
Yeah, outside is the real internet.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that's the real internet.
Yeah, the internet is paradoxical, just like anything else in life. It's like we don't need it, but we just have it. And I think it kind of reflects sort of what we already are. Like, I think the internet is a reflection of what already exists. Like, I think we already are interconnected. And I think we brought that into like the physical manifestation of us being interconnected is the internet. So something that we can see and touch and hear and measure. And
I think you're right, man. I think the only problem with the internet maybe is just like, it's almost like gas on a fire. Like, let's say on Facebook, if there's like somebody's trying to have an argument with somebody else. Well, in real life, it'll go much smoother than on Facebook. I think it just like puts gas on the fire and creates like these crazy things sometimes. But it can be super helpful as well. It's just like exaggerates everything, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's just it, man. Like, and everything can be used as a tool. Everything can be medicine or poison for us. So it's up to us how we choose to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So why did you end up moving to Squamish, BC?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. Yeah, like I was saying earlier when we weren't recording, I guess 2020, just like everybody else, man, the whole COVID thing happened, and I lost my job, and it was just like, okay, I just had a bunch of realization, like, I gotta start doing what I really like to do. Like, I thought about, imagine like if the pandemic would have been much, much worse and we would start like losing loved ones and maybe us ourselves dying. And I was just like, you know what? Life can be so unpredictable and so like fragile, and we're so vulnerable that you don't want to spend your time doing something that's not worth your time and that you don't want to do all the time. So I just thought to myself, like, what are the things that I really enjoy doing? And one thing that's not the top of my list all the time is just riding bikes, really. And so what happened is Squamish in British Columbia is kind of like the mecca of mountain biking. It's where like the majority of the pros that ride mountain bike live. It's just between Whistler and Vancouver, basically. So yeah, there's like some of the best mountain biking trails in the world right here, and it's always been a dream of mine to move here. I've visited a few times, and a few things happened over the summer where I was just like, you know what, I need to go out there. My one of my best friends just moved here as well, so I just said whatever, and I took my van and drove for 7 straight days, and here I am. It's been about a month now.
Oh man, I love that. That's such a classic story of kind of just saying, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do what I've always wanted to do and do what I love." And you did that. You're an example of that, and you know it's cool too because you're showing other people that it's possible. And I think if you keep that up, if you keep that mindset and that that thinking of following what you love and doing what you've always wanted to do, it's gonna bring you nothing but success. Not just with mountain biking, but with anything else you kind of put your mind to. So that's good, man. Like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Like it definitely like brings out the best out of me anyway. Like even though I'm not getting paid to ride bikes right now, or I'm not, I can always find like other opportunities just because I feel like I'm mountain biking is helping me becoming kind of like the best version of myself, right? I feel like I'm in my element. I'm living kind of like my true self a little bit.
Yeah.
Really doing what I want to do. I meet the right people. I like the people I meet around here are just so like they're so like me that I've never experienced that. And it's kind of crazy. You know, back home I was always like this weird kid that really likes to ride bikes, and that everybody would just be like, get a career, kid, and something with your life or whatever. And it's just like, you know what? I think I've come to a point right now where I'd rather like live in a van and not have a shower and just ride bike as much as possible than to live in a fancy house and have a whatever normal 9 to 5 job where I hate myself doing it. So
Hey, amen to that, man. Happiness is literally a state of mind, and we can either put ourselves in our own prison by kind of succumbing to the treacheries of society and like choosing a job that we hate and working 9 to 5 and just complaining about our daily life. Or we can realize that we are only in this body for so long, and we have an opportunity to make the best of it and live life to the fullest and do things that make us happy. Or we can just live a life where we're just stuck inside and always kind of wish we had taken that step. Because you know what, man, there's probably so many people that have wanted to do what you did and haven't done it.
Hmm.
Like think about that for a second.
And I
And
was
you,
that guy, you know. I was that guy
yeah,
for a long time, you know. The past like 7 years of my life, I'd be like sitting at home on a computer and just daydreaming about doing this all the time and just being like, oh, I need to do this. I need to get it out of my system. I need to live that adventure, meet those people. Do like if I don't do it, I'll never know. You know, as risky as it is, if I don't do it, I'll never know. So I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it.
yeah, man. You know what's greater than any value that money can give is experiences. So that's exactly what you're doing. You know, you pay for the mountain bike, obviously, but the
Yeah,
experiences you have with it are priceless.
yeah, totally, man. It's funny you say that. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday with Mike Posner. You remember Mike Posner? I took a pill in
No,
Ibiza.
you what?
This song, I took a pill in Ibiza,
I took a
or
pill in a visa.
yeah,
No, no.
you think you're cooler than me. No, you don't
Oh,
remember?
okay, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I guess I that song rings a bell. Yeah.
yeah. He used to be like super famous, really rich, had like big houses, big cars, and he just had a realization, man, that none of that was truly making him happy or
Yeah.
healthier or more connected with people. Like he felt disconnected from everything. He felt like he was just trying to buy things all the time to make himself happier, and that never worked. Like at some point, he said he had like 200 pairs of shoes. Some of them he didn't remember he had. And then one day he just decided to kind of give all of that up and just drove away with like a little camper van that he bought on Craigslist and went to like the middle of the desert in Utah and just lived there for a few months by himself. And he just kind of realized, like, you know what? I'm living with absolutely or almost nothing but the bare necessities like food and water and shelter and being able to move and have conversations with people. And he was the happiest and the healthiest he's ever been, right? So I think that's kind of a realization that even us as like mortals, I think we can have. Whereas if you just chase the money, you know, there's so many good jobs out there where you can be like a banker or a lawyer or whatever and not really care about your work, but really care about the money you're making. But then after a certain point, man, that money isn't going to make you happy, you know?
That's right. And you know, there's lots of stories and cases where you know somebody might become a millionaire and then they'll realize that they're still not happy, and then they'll think, well, maybe I'm going to be happier when I have $10 million, and they get $10 million and they realize they're still not happy. And it's really the belief and the meaning we attach behind things,
Mm-hmm.
because we can be just as happy in living out of a van or driving a Toyota Corolla than we would driving a fancy new Tesla or BMW or whatever, or in a big
Oh,
house. I mean,
definitely, man. And like more often than not, this is what you see. Like look in traffic, man. You see people in like fancy cars, like they're seeking something, you know. They just want like they want to make more money, they want more of this, they want more, faster, 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 like and then they're never satisfied, never happy, always have like high expectations, always have, you know, and then if you just detach yourself from all of that, I don't know if you're familiar with minimalism.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I've been trying to practice for the past maybe like 4 years now. It's something that really, really helped me mentally and physically to just simplify my life in general, you know, not only financially because you just have like less things to buy, but also like mentally and physically. You don't need to hold on to all that stuff, you know. If you have a BMW in the driveway, you always think like, okay, that car is worth like $100,000. Where I need to go drive it right now. You know, I need to do something with it. I need to work harder to pay it. I need, there's always like that stress that comes with it. And if you don't have that, well, you just don't have that. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. I don't know
Yeah.
what your point of view is on that, but
Well, man, at one point in my life, it's probably 3 years ago now, I went through this phase where I just felt like I had to get rid of everything I had. And I actually, well, maybe this is the time to share the story. So, yeah, I'll share a couple stories actually. Story time. So, this is the beginning of my, you call it weight loss journey, transformation journey, health transformation journey. Started in 2017. Now, I started, like, I had my huge realization in July 2017, and then, or no, it was actually technically August, and then September is kind of when I started implementing it. Now, a few months before that, I had to sell my SUV because I needed the money, and it was like a little bit too much to fix. So I sold it, and then I was like, you know what? I've always heard the term "mind over matter." Like, it's about time I put it into practice. And of course, that was back then when I still had all my health problems, and I was overweight and my addictions and stuff. But I still did it, man. Like, put my mind to it, and I ended up buying like a hybrid road bicycle. And I lived in Riverview at the time, which is about, from where I worked in Moncton, it was about a 17-kilometer bike ride. So I just started biking there to and from work. And
big.
yeah, it was like, when you're a big guy, like, that was tough, man. Like, I'll never forget how hard it was. And I was like smoking / vaping at the time too, so my lungs would feel it too. And I would like take my puffer. I had asthma. I don't have asthma anymore, but
Nice.
I would like stop and take my puffer like while I'm biking, and like then I would like take my puff of my vape after. It's like, I don't know, it just made no sense. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was doing that. That kind of introduced me to biking and a little bit to health. I mean, I was still eating like crap. At that time in my life, I was going back and forth between like trying different things, but I wasn't really trying. I tried like a bodybuilding eating protocol that my uncle did for a competition he won. But like that eating protocol is like pretty drastic. Like, even for me now, and I have quite a lot of discipline with food these days, but it just obviously didn't work. And anyways, going back to when I was biking to and from work, and I kind of started to see like, oh, there's something to this. And deep down inside me, I always desired a change. And a few months later, there was a situation that happened that kind of showed me the reality of things, which I'll talk about on another podcast. But anyway, what I was going to get at was, started to make all these changes, and I told my friends, like, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to change my life. And they were kind of like, yeah. And I actually started doing it, but part of that was I ended up actually buying a car, and I still had my hybrid bicycle, but I wasn't using it anymore. And I had put it on Facebook Marketplace back when Facebook Marketplace wasn't as big as it was now, because now it kind of almost overtook Kijiji, or it's like just on par with Kijiji, it seems. And so I put it on there, and nobody responded to me. I put it on there for $400, which was a pretty good deal, honestly. And nobody responded. Months went by, and then I think 2 or 3 months went by, and some guy messaged me, and he was like, hey man, can I buy this? And I was, for 200. And I was like, I don't know what state of mind I was in at the time, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give it to you. So I ended up, and he was like, well, I'm in St. John. And I'm like, well, I'll drive to you and give it to you. St. John's, like, for those who aren't in New Brunswick, that's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, depending on how fast you drive. And anyways, I ended up bringing it to him, and he was like so happy and so grateful when I dropped off this bicycle to him. Come to find out that he actually had only been in Canada for a month. He was from Vietnam, and he had a pretty hard life. with like living in a communist country and his family situation and stuff. And so that felt pretty good. That's why it goes to show, like, always give from the heart and give heartlessly and selflessly, give selflessly to others, because you never know who it's going to impact. And just so happened that it couldn't have went to a more perfect person. And so that was like the start of me giving stuff away. And I think it was because it felt so good. And it also felt good to just let go of something and not have a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, and I was living at my place, and I already didn't really have that much stuff anyway. I think I ended up moving to this place in Chediac, and all I had was my car, and I had a couple beds for my kids. The place was furnished, so I had a couch and stuff. It was a cheap little place in like a sketchy area in Chediac, and it was good rent, and it was kind of a little cottage chalet to itself, kind of like open concept type thing with just 2 little bedrooms. And it was pretty small, but it was nice, did the trick. And then, I don't know, one night I just was in this process of letting go of all these things in my life, letting go of all these emotions and this trauma and like all the crap that we hold on to. That's what caused me to gain the weight and use these substances as distractions, the substances being marijuana, alcohol, and nicotine, and TV and stuff like that. And anyway, it felt really good to kind of lighten the load, so to say. And so I ended up deciding, I was like, I'm gonna go. Like, I had a leather jacket, I had leather boots, and I was like, I want to give these to a homeless guy. I was starting to get cold. It was in mid-October, end of October type. It was a timeline, and so I just want to go give this to a homeless person, and just because I was getting cold and I knew it would feel good to give, and I was feeling super inspired to do so. So I ended up setting out one night, told my friends, and 2 of my friends, Jordan and Haley, if you're listening, hello. But they kind of said, hey, go down by the Delta Hotel, and that's, you probably find there's somebody there that you might see that you want to give it to. So I did, but on my way there, I finished my shift at work. I was working at Massage Act at the time, and I had $30 in tips, and that was all I had left in my name, and probably had enough gas to get back and forth from Shediac. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop at Sobeys and get some healthy food. And I had my backpack that happened to be in the car, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give him this backpack, put the food in it. And then I actually had some clean clothes and some toiletries, like toothbrush and deodorant and stuff that was like not used. I was like, I'm going to give all this to whoever's waiting for it. And I ended up putting it all in the bag, drove by the hotel by Main Street, and I ended up walking down a couple blocks, and through out the corner of my eye, or I guess technically it was just going around the corner, a few blocks away, saw this guy carrying he's wheeling a suitcase behind him, and I was like, that's the guy. I don't know what it was, because I had passed by a few other homeless people, but for some reason it just didn't feel like the one. Mm-hmm. And that guy I saw wheeling the suitcase felt like the one. So I sped up, turned the corner, met him in the alleyway. I was like, hey, man. He's like, hey. He kind of looked at me weird, and I was like, all I said was like, do you have a home? And he's just kind of, his face dropped, and he was like, no, I don't actually. And anyways, kind of long story short, like, he ended up telling me a little bit of a story, and I gave him the book bag of stuff right away, and he was like so grateful. He was like, oh, like I was actually gonna dumpster dive for some food here, and last night I was about to kill myself. I was on the train tracks, and I prayed for the first time in my life for help.
Wow.
And for somebody to come help me. And anyways, I was there. I showed up. I was like, well, yeah, here's your start, man. And he thought I was going to leave after I gave him the book bag, but I was like, I want to stay with you for the whole night because I want to experience what it's like to be homeless because I have this privileged life as a white person in Canada. Like I'm pretty freaking privileged.
Mm.
Like I just to add to that, like I feel that with great power comes great responsibility, and when we are born with different assets, and if we have more financial freedom than people, or if we're just more privileged in general in whatever way, like I think we need to use that to help others because I went to Cuba 2019 and just live a total different life there, and they would kill or steal to get to live the lives we have here, and they
Oh,
do
it's
anything.
incredible. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they do anything to try to come to Canada. So like the more we can just kind of adapt that mindset, the better. But anyway,
Yeah.
I stayed with him the whole night, and I ended up giving him my leather jacket and leather boots, winter boots that were all brand new. He was so grateful. He cried for the first time in a really long time, he said. And I talked to him the whole night, and I just pretty much gave him as much wisdom and advice as I possibly could, and I listened to him, which is probably the thing that would help the most. Some people just need to be heard. But it felt really good, and I actually after that I was like, I almost gave away my car, and I was like, no, I think I'll keep that because I got to be smart and true to things. But I ended up having no phone. I didn't barely had any clothes left to my name, and all I had was these beds, and I actually ended up not even having a home myself. And my friend ended up letting me crash on her floor due to financial circumstances because of my bad habits in the past. I was kind of just frivolous with money. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't afford to pay some bills or fix my car, so it forced me to move out of the place. And anyways, but I debated on keeping my car, but it felt good. It felt really good to be that minimalist. And
Yeah.
I'm going to stop my rant here in a second. I've been talking for a while. I do this sometimes.
Good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, but yeah, where was I going with this? Anyways, I gave away all my stuff, and it felt really good. And it felt really good to be minimalist. And I took it to the next level. And I actually, because I had my car, I went to I parked my beach somewhere in Plantagenet in like a backcountry road, and right next to the ocean. And I had been in a 24-hour fasted state without food or water, for the first time. I think I fasted for one day, and then the next day I fasted without food or water. And I didn't even do any research at this point. Like I didn't even know fasting was good for you. I just felt compelled to do it. So I did it, and I locked myself in my car next to the ocean. And I was just like, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I made myself stay there in complete silence with no electronics, nothing, just for 3 hours straight, I think it was. And I forced myself to stay awake. So I was like sleep deprived, fasting. I'm surprised I wasn't seeing leprechauns dancing on my windshield. But it really made me feel for the people in the world who live with absolutely nothing and who don't have food and who they face the reality of those sufferings every day.
Yeah.
And so that was my long story short to add towards minimalism. So those are my thoughts on that.
You brought up a really good point there. I find that oftentimes it's definitely a first world problem that we're having. Like you're saying, like there's definitely more people that have a lot less than us that are in much more miserable situations than us, right? Of course. But one thing that's really prevalent that really happens a lot in the rich countries is that we put up so much emotional value onto stuff, like you were saying, and that leads to not only emotional value on stuff, but emotional value on food and on certain drugs, like you were saying, alcohol and nicotine and marijuana. And you keep thinking that you're never going to be able to live without these things, right? And it kind of comes back to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Stoic philosophy,
Yeah, absolutely.
where if you're not dependent on anything and you're detached from that physical world type of deal, then if tomorrow morning you crash your car or you lose your car or whatever happens, well, you're not going to be crying for hours and hours and hours, You're just going to be like, hey, this happened to me. I don't know why. There's no good explanation for this. Let's move on. Let's find a solution and keep going, right? Just like if something crazy good happens to you, you're not going to be like, I'm the king of the world and I can destroy everything and, I have so much power or whatever. And I think that's a good state to be in, really, if you can detach yourself kind of like from that physical environment and just be stoic, really.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, especially in this day and age, because a lot of people deal with anxiety and worries and fears. And I'm sure this has helped you with the Stoic philosophy, because for those who don't know, the Stoic philosophy is really just like you said, is detaching from objects and detaching from scenarios, so that when bad things happen, you recognize that life has ups and downs,
Yeah.
and you accept that, and you accept that when bad things happen, that it's okay, because it's going to pass, it's temporary, and it's just going to make you stronger and bring you to where you need to be, and that all is really okay as it actually is.
Yeah, and the worst thing that can ever happen is probably death, and death is inevitable. It'll happen someday.
Yeah,
So just gotta accept those things, I guess. Uh,
yeah.
you were talking about anxiety. Um, I don't know if it's a good time to talk about my struggles.
Yeah,
Uh,
throw some insight in, man. We want to hear it.
I've never actually shared this on an interview or podcast or online or anything because Instagram and whatnot. You always want to put your best self forward, so you don't talk about your struggles really. But yeah, when I was really young, I had like maybe in the second, third grade, I just started having extreme anxiety. At first, it was kind of like everyone around me, like my parents and doctors, they had a hard time. I didn't want to sit in the chair all day. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to take the bus. These things didn't really make sense to me. Like being in a classroom, being told what to do, and sitting down, head down. Um, and at that time, I guess that's when the whole mountain biking thing really started for me, because I would come back home from school and just start building random jumps with like random wood that my dad had in the backyard and escape. And I remember when doing that, I didn't feel any anxiety, like when I was in.
Just a second. I'm sorry to cut you off, but start over from when you said you started making random jumps. I'm going to cut that part out because there is a lag.
That's what, yeah, I saw my computer said like my connection was unstable.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's the thing. Like I was doing random. I was coming back home from school, making little jumps from my dad's old wood in the back, and it just kind of like it was just kind of the thing where I wasn't really anxious while I was doing those things. Even if I was like in a kind of like stressful situation where I needed to go over this certain jump or whatever, and everybody was like stressed out. I was never anxious for those type of thing. I felt like it was a good kind of anxiety, a good kind of stress. So anyway, time went by, and I had like major problems. I would meet with psychologists in school, and around like fifth grade, I had this teacher that really helped me. She put me aside and she was like, you know what, we're going to talk about this. Every time you feel like you're super anxious, just let me know. We're going to talk about it. And that really helped me. And just to make like long story short, over the years, I kind of like had a lot less anxiety up to the end of high school, where I didn't really recognize it, but all the stuff like graduating high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had a job at that time. I was applying for university, for college, and all my friends were doing different things. I was about to move away from my parents' place. Um, and all that subconsciously affected me so much that I had a panic attack at work. And that was the first time that that ever happened to me. I didn't understand it. It was like 30 minutes of, oh shit, I'm going to die. I didn't know what was going on with me. I wanted to like puke and cry and scream and run. And I had no clue what was going on. I kind of fell on the floor, like almost passed out. And I went to the doctor the next day. And he was, to this day, I think, like, he's a really good doctor, because the first thing he asked me is like, are you stressed with anything right now? And to me, like, I thought I had like a heart attack or something. So
Yeah.
he was just like, are you stressed? And I was like, no. He's like, what do you plan on doing next year? So we started talking about that. And then he just said, maybe it's anxiety, you know? So he gives me like this little bottle of pills, and he's like, if you ever get anxious again, take these. So I bring them back home, and I kind of made a pact with myself that I was never going to take any of those pills, right? And so that's when my like struggle started again, where I had more and more panic attacks, even though I was trying to be a lot healthier. I was eating a lot better than I ever would. I was going to the gym pretty much every day, but I was still neglecting a lot of things that I think really make someone healthy. And so, yeah, over the years, I got prescribed, I think, up to 5 times for antidepressants, and I never took them. That was like kind of like the story of my life at the time, where I didn't know what to do with myself, and I would just go to the doctor, and she'd be like, look, take these and you'll feel better. And I was just like, never, I'm never going to take these. So it took me like maybe 4 years, I'd say, overall, to do kind of like a lot of searching on my end and a lot of experimentation to see what worked and what didn't. And I read a lot of books and did a lot of yoga and changed the way I slept and changed a bunch of things, even my nutrition again. And one book that really, really made a big difference was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, I've heard that's a good book.
Yeah, it's a super good book, man. It kind of blew my mind the first time I listened to it, because I took an audiobook version. But when he was saying, like, the first few times that, you know, there's no such thing as past or future. They're just like, it's just our minds that make that up. All there is the present moment, right?
Oh, exactly.
And so yeah, that kind of like led me on to this path of finding other ways to be healthier, um, without just having the best nutrition or the best fitness program.
Yeah.
And like we were talking before the podcast, that's when I started doing figuring out the 6 kind of pillars, I would say, of
Yeah,
health,
yeah. Yeah. Let's hear that.
that we haven't found a word for yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so
Oh, the 6 key things that you keep in mind for your daily life, like your sort of mantras or whatever you want to call them.
yeah, all the time. Yeah. So the first two are the first two obvious, which are nutrition and movement. And all the 6 that I'm going to name right here are all connected, and we can talk about that after. And I think it's pretty mind blowing when you think about it. Um, the third one, which I think is just as, if not more important than the first two, is sleep.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever heard anything from Matthew Walker, the neurologist who's like a sleep scientist, he will blow your mind on how important sleep is.
Oh,
And
it totally
not
is.
like not just the amount of time you sleep, but the quality of that sleep.
Yeah.
The fourth one is something that we also don't think about too much, but it's kind of like your relationship with the natural world. If you spend all your time indoors or in a concrete jungle, your nervous system is not at the same place that it would be if you were in the forest or looking at a waterfall. Or see, there have been studies of people running in cities or running in a forest, and even though they did the same amount of kilometers in the same type of run, that running in the forest was a lot better for them mentally and physically than running in the concrete jungle.
Oh yeah, it's the same as me taking the trail to work versus taking the roads. Like you totally just know and feel the difference. There's no you don't have to measure that. It's just like one of those things, common sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The fifth one would be, and that one was one of the most important one for me actually when I kind of realized this whole thing. It's the relationship you have with other people. So I was at a point where I would neglect that because I would think that I'm not going to go out Friday night to eat a pizza or have a burger with my friends. I'm going to stay at home and eat my quinoa salad, you know? But then I kind of realized that, and there has been studies on that showing as well, that if you're out by the beach with your friends, beautiful sunset, and you're eating a McDonald's hamburger, you're going to digest that hamburger better than if you were in your car driving and drinking a kale smoothie. Which is kind of mind blowing because we're told that, it's all about, nutrition and whatever you put in your body, which is a big part of it for sure. But you have to be careful to not just focus on calories or macros or whatever you put in your body. You also have to factor in the lifestyle factors around that.
Yeah, food's something that brings us together, and like it's meant to be shared
Meant
amongst
to be shared.
people,
Yeah.
and it totally affects the way you eat. Like that's like actually a huge thing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a
And
lot more grateful. You digest better.
yeah,
Just everything is better about it.
they say the quality of our life is the quality of our relationships too. So
Ooh,
it's like
a good
I think I
saying.
heard that from Tony Robbins first.
And then the last one, or the sixth one rather, is the relationship you have with yourself,
Oh yeah.
which is also really important. And then now that I've named all six, we can start to have fun and try to figure out if you neglect one of these six, what happens. Well, let's say tomorrow morning you had a bad night of sleep. You just didn't sleep well at all. You had maybe like 3 or 4 hours or whatever. You wake up, you have coffee. You're you're not gonna nourish your body properly because you're gonna make worse decisions. You're tired. You're gonna reach for something that, you're not gonna do the right thing, obviously, because you're making worse decisions because you're tired, right? And then
Exactly.
because you didn't eat right, then you feel a little less better than you would have, so you're maybe not going to move as much. And then if you don't move as much, then you don't get out of the house, so you stay inside or you stay at work or whatever, or in your car, so you don't have that relationship with nature. And then maybe all of that brings that you're not going to meet other people throughout that day because you're going to be a little grumpier because of everything that happened prior to that. And then it all leads to you being like kind of pissed off about yourself and not knowing why. And maybe reaching for, I don't know, alcohol or cigarettes or binging TV or binging food or whatever, trying to soothe that pain.
Yeah, or stimulants for some people, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Or you might beat yourself up and be like, you know, because somebody might even be aware of this and be like, oh, like I'm so upset because I didn't get a good sleep, so that affected my nutrition and my movement and the nature and my nervous system and my relationships, and that's all going to come back to you if you beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, and it's definitely a learning process, because even though I personally know all those 6 things, there's some morning that I wake up and I feel like shit, and I'm just like, why do I feel like this, right? And then I start, trying to self-diagnosing myself, like what did I do yesterday? What did I eat? How did I sleep? Have I been spending too much time with myself, too much time inside? And I feel like it's definitely not something that has to be perfect, and that you don't want to like be, a perfectionist about this and trying to make everything, be super uptight about this. It's sort of like, if you keep all of those things in mind, then you have a way better idea of what health is all about and how to be a lot healthier, I think.
I think that's really good, man, and I'll probably actually use that the way you broke it down there to talk to people and use it as a reference with people I coach and just teach and stuff. Because, I always talk about how everything's connected. And as a massage therapist, like, I explain to people, like, your hip hurts because you have knee problems and everything's connected type thing. And I always try to use different analogies and stuff, but that's a really good one. Like, one thing affects another, and just in the same way, how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard that term before?
Yeah, no, but it definitely does make sense.
Yeah, so if we half-ass, let's say, cleaning our kitchen or something, chances are we're going to half-ass something else.
Yeah.
In our life. So it's important to kind of put pride into everything we do. Love what we do.
And just to be clear with everyone, all those 6 things are pretty much, other than maybe nutrition, are 6 things that are free, that doesn't cost anything,
Absolutely. The best things in life are free. The best supplement is actually not eating. It's called fasting.
Yeah, I believe that as well. And it's the sort of thing where I think everyone gets caught up into the whole marketing thing, where, this whole health industry is now trying to sell a million types of different products. You need a fucking BCAA and this and a pre-workout and a this and a that and a protein shake and a this, and it never ends. And it's just like, it turns out that, first of all, you don't need any of that stuff. Some of that stuff may be doing more harm than good. And then it's just going to empty your pockets, really. And what does it do when it empties your pockets? Well, you have to work more. And what does working more means? It probably means sleeping less and spending less time with the people you care about, and spending less time moving, and spending less time making good food. So it's just like a never-ending,
oh yeah,
vicious circle that people get into all the time.
Man, some of these guys are like taking handfuls of supplements, and they're just promoting the ones that they sell, and like they're getting to people to take this, and they're saying like, oh, like, God bless you, Dave Asprey, but Dave Asprey's one of them. He takes handfuls of supplements, and he markets the supplements that he sells. And I met somebody once, I won't say his name, but I met him in person, and I ended up talking to him, and he knows Dave Asprey. He's friends with him, and he's been on this podcast a few times. When we got talking, I told him a little bit about my history and journey, and I don't know how we got talking about the keto diet, and not to call Dave Asprey out or anything, but he said Dave Asprey is an expert marketer.
Well, of course,
And I was like, because I was like talking about the keto diet, and so he kind of glorifies the keto diet, which does have some benefits for some people if used for a short period of time during these certain periods, but it's not an end all cure all. Neither is taking a bunch of supplements. Want to know how I lost 115 pounds and reversed all my health problems? I became my own medication. I became the placebo. I became my own placebo. I actually read a book called "You Are the Placebo" by Joe Dispenza. That was actually after I kind of realized that I already was my own placebo, and how the mind plays such a
That must be a freaking good book. I remember being so fascinated about the placebo effect growing up, like in my teenage years. And I watched a documentary where, I don't know if you've ever watched it, they did a knee surgery on people with ACL problems, right? And there were like two separate groups. One of them where they actually did the surgery, reconstruction surgery in their knees, and the other group where they didn't do the reconstruction, they just did incision, to make it seem like they had. And turns out those two groups recovered just the same and had better knees after that surgery, no matter if they got the surgery done or not. Just by the simple act of thinking that you had that surgery done, your knees up quicker, which is crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. He actually talked about that in his book. And I read those things and I was like, well, yeah, like this doesn't surprise me at all, because it's kind of all around us, and the placebo effect has always existed. There's also the thing called the nocebo. If we think the opposite, if we're thinking negative, like, oh, I'm injured, oh, I'm old. Our body responds to our mind because our body is a mind. Our brain is one and the same with our body. It's not separate.
No, it's
and
all
so
connected, man.
it starts to respond. I've had a complete ACL tear, and I re-injured it for a second time. And the second time I actually got nerve damage. I must have, messed some shit up in there, because I damaged my sterile nerve, and I was like, I couldn't walk properly because there was it impaired my motor function of the muscles that was attached to the sterile nerve, which is on the outside, the lateral part of your leg, and like calf, and all the way down the side of the foot. And yeah, it messed me up. Anyways, I kept this in mind. I was like, I tell myself I am a placebo, and each pain I would feel in my knee, I would think that is just a signal that my knee is healing.
Yeah.
And I would do everything. I would take ice baths. I would constantly just like talk to my knee almost. And man, I have no pain. I have full range of motion. I can run now. I can jump. And my shoulder, I was telling you earlier, I lost the count of the amount of times I dislocated it. Like, I have full range. I don't have any pain. I can do CrossFit, like, no problem. And I honestly attribute that to my mind. Like, because number one, even if somebody thinks the placebo effect is bullshit, the fact is, if you have that mindset, it's still going to bring you towards things that are going to actually better your knee. It's going to, because it brought me to eat better. It brought me to do crazy Wim Hof stuff, which is scientifically proven to have benefits. It brought me to be a better person. It brought me to just be in a better mental state in general. On top of, I think it actually played a role in speeding the healing and healing it properly. So,
That's very interesting, man.
And I think if we learn that from a young age and practice as a society, like, I think crazy things are possible, because the body has the ability to heal itself. We just have to take away what's making it sick.
Yeah.
And just let it be, and that's when it heals itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy, man, with Western medicine. Like, that's definitely not their approach, they're not getting formed in that way. They're getting formed in the way of, okay, if the patient has a problem, he has a symptom, I have a pill that I can give him, or maybe an alternative way of doing things, like
oh yeah, exactly.
physiotherapy or whatever. Because I remember going to the doctor once, like maybe 6 years ago with back pain. I was like 19, and the doctor said, "I'm gonna give you, some type of crazy painkiller right away." And I was just like, can I just go see a physiotherapist? And he said, "I don't believe in soft medicine." And I was just like, what is this? You're going to give a crazy painkiller to a 19-year-old? Are you absolutely out of your mind,
Yeah, like what reality am I living in?
And I have compassion for these doctors, because I know they see like so many patients, and they don't have like time to think for themselves, and they see crazy stuff all the time. So they're definitely they have their own problems, right? Of course.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah, so this doctor was about to give. Oh yeah, the aviators, nice.
Yeah. Oh man, I look like a creepy '80s guy. So I for those who are just listening to this, I put on my blue light blocking glasses, and they look like cheesy '80s aviators, but like the aviator glasses, like not shaded. So it looks pretty funny. But I actually bought them I'm creating a YouTube series, a comedy YouTube series, and then they're for my character. So
anyway, just to finish that story, yeah, I have a lot of compassion though for those doctors, because they see crazy stuff on a daily, and they don't have time to process it, and they're just caught up into this, practice where they don't have time to like sit you down and tell you everything that you have to do. They're just like, "Hey, I want you to get out of my office. Here's a paper. That's it," And I've been at that point so many times with like the antidepressant, like I was telling you, and a few other times where I went, and there was this one pretty crazy time as well where that kind of messed me up. I was in what I think was one of the best shapes of my life, and the doctor calculated my BMI and said that I was close to being obese, and without even looking at me, and I had like visible abdominal abs, and it's just like I was like, okay, yeah, like you did a little equation there, and you tried, you figured out that I was close to being overweight or obese or whatever, but it's not the case. I don't know. It was weird anyway.
oh man, that's unreal. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Did you just have like a sweater on or something?
Yeah, I just had a sweater on, and he didn't look at me. He was just like, "Oh yeah, you should be careful about what you eat, bud." And I was like, "Do you know me at all?"
That's yeah, they don't have the time. Well, some of them don't have the time to like research and learn these different things. Some of them don't take the time, and some of them are just ignorant. So
yeah, it's also like I'm saying, I do have a lot of compassion for them, because they learn so many things to save people's lives that they're not formed to prevent that much. They're really formed to act whenever shit's going really bad and they need to save your life,
Exactly, man. As a massage therapist, I hear of everybody's different health problems and health journeys that they've been through, and it always comes down to, let's say they're trying to heal of some crazy health problem. I've heard so many stories about them trying pretty much everything within Western medicine. It was only when they started doing alternative therapies like massage therapy, or I actually had one client, she went to Mexico and got I think it was scorpion venom for some condition. I forget the condition, but they went and got scorpion venom to treat it. That's just unreal. And it worked. It was the only thing that worked. That's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, Western medicine's great. I personally think it's great for emergencies.
It is, yeah.
And it's great for research.
Yeah.
And measuring. But as far as actually healing stuff, I think alternative therapies is the way to go, because it gets to the root, and the only way to actually heal something is to get to the root. Yeah. If you have anxiety or trauma, you get to the root. You get psychotherapy in whatever way. You go to the point where the trauma was created, you face it, and then you change the way you see it.
Yeah.
And
I
that's like the way with our health and the physical too.
yeah. I read a book once that had a theory about all of that stuff, which said like modern medicine and modern hospitals were created not to keep people healthier, but to bring people back to work as quick as possible. So the people who had like big companies and stuff, when their workers got sick or got injured, they just wanted their workers to get back to work as quick as possible. So they funded, these type of stuff with the government to try to, every time I say the word government, it feels like conspiracy theory. But but what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, it's like kind of a system that is really, you're just a number, really. You're just there to, try. They're just trying to make you get back to work or get back in society as quick as possible. They're not going to take the longer route if there's a longer route. They're, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, man. Well, that's exactly how that it is. I mean, that's the truth right there. And whether it was deliberately created to be that way or whether it was just part of our experience of having to mess up before we create something better,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's one of those two, I mean, the fact remains it's still here and we got to do something to change it. And that's kind of well, I guess that's what I do as a massage therapist.
Yeah.
work towards that.
Yeah.
So you kind of found your way out of your anxiety through mountain biking and the other stuff you mentioned. You said you started to read books and do yoga and kind of develop these practices. You were sort of like cultivating these different things, like cultivating your strength physically, and you started to expand your mind by reading more and kind of do the opposite of working out and work in through yoga, and that ended up being sort of your medicine in a way. Hey.
No, it totally did. Yeah, it totally did. It was also a thing where I kind of saw people, like older people, maybe their 50s, 60s, and 70s, that I told myself I want to look like them, like if you see somebody, and that's always something that I think everyone should be careful or mindful about. Like if you see someone that's where you would like to be in a few years, I mean, you can ask, you pick their brain, ask some questions, trying to figure out what they did to get there, right? To see what kind of behavior they had to be healthy or to look like that or to be happy at that age, right? And I think that throughout that whole journey, that's kind of what I did. I looked at people who were older than me and trying to figure out, like, if people who went through the same struggles as I did, and trying to figure out, like, what worked for you, what didn't work. Yeah, that's just what I tried to do. I tried to experiment with a lot of things until I found what really worked for me. And to this day, I mean, of course, I still struggle with it from time to time, but it's not even close to what it was when I was younger. And it's also, like we were saying, if you live according to your values and ethics, and if you feel like you're in your element, it's really hard to be anxious,
Exactly. You're sort of becoming self-actualized. Have you ever seen the Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
You're kind of living up to your full potential, which is infinite, really. And if we have to realize that if we want to get out of these ruts, because that's what I did, and that's what many other people have did, and that's what a lot of people teach these days too. And I think it's really good that you looked up towards an older people who maybe have lived a similar life, but like maybe they're healthier and they look good and they look younger and they feel good and they're living the life they love.
One of the big things. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that when we want to achieve something, like for when it comes to weight loss, for example, if you want to learn how to do it, find somebody who's already been down that road and learn from them, like me, for example. Or and I could also talk about the age thing. Like, if you want to feel younger and be younger, you got to have a young mind.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one thing for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say another thing is that really I think plays a big role in helping my anxiety and stuff is that I don't drink coffee or alcohol. So no caffeine, no alcohol, and I think that I have maybe I maybe have a bit of a cynic view on caffeine in general. Like I think
Yeah,
it's pretty bad for most people and in most situations, especially in the Western world, because let's say you're in I don't know if you're familiar with the blue zones,
yeah,
where people there's the most amount of people who live beyond 100 years old. The healthiest people in the world, basically.
yeah.
And one could argue, these people drink coffee and alcohol. True. But the problem is with our Western world is that over there, whenever they wake up, they drink coffee. They're surrounded by other people. They're taking their time. They're not rushing to work. They're not rushing to do something. They're breathing in. They're soaking up in the sun, drinking a little bit of coffee. They slept good, and they're going to do something kind of like meaningful, or at least something that's not causing them chronic stress, at least. Compared to here, what we do with caffeine is we're too tired in the morning or too tired in the afternoon, so we'll drink coffee, right, to try to bring it up. And all it does is it doesn't wake you up. All it does is it makes you think that you're not sleepy, that you're not tired. But you're still making the same decisions you would if you were tired. Your body's function are the same as you were if you were tired. And if you're tired, your body is literally telling you the best thing you could do right now is go to bed and sleep. Literally. There's no other clearer signal than that. Your body needs to work on itself, to regenerate some stuff, to whatever it needs to do, right?
Exactly, man. I honestly don't feel caffeine should be a supplement. I think it should be an ornament.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And not just caffeine, but anything else in life. Because like I didn't drink for like 13 months or whatever, and I'll I can confidently say, like, and I don't say this with any sort of pride in a condescending way. Like, I just will never get drunk again. Like, I just don't feel
Yeah.
the need. I don't feel compelled. Like, I'll have a craft IPA or one glass of organic wine, and I enjoy the culinary experience of it. It's an ornament to my life. It's not a supplement. It's not supplementing my happiness. The happiness is already there. It is with the friends I'm with. It is with, the meal we're sharing together. It is not the food or the caffeine or the alcohol or whatever else itself. You know what I mean?
That's a very good point, man. And it brings me to the alcohol, which is kind of the same thing. One could have the argument that in those blue zones, they do drink a bunch of alcohol all the time, but they're not doing it in the same way that we would out here, right?
Exactly.
Over there, they're not doing it to soothe their pain. They're not doing it because they had a big day at work and they just want to get drunk by themselves. They're not doing it because they want to forget about a bunch of stuff. They're doing it because they're drinking a glass of wine around a amazing meal or a campfire, and they're just talking with their best friends, right? Compared
Exactly.
to here, you see, like I hear so many stories of people drinking themselves to sleep, on weekdays, you
I
know,
used to be
it's
like that.
yeah, and you know, you're not alone. Like you were not alone. Like there's so many people like that, and to me, that's really scary, man. Because you get into that vicious circle again, where you just go into a job you don't really kind of like, but you still do it, and then as soon as you get home, you know that something's not right, so you try to feel numb. So either you're gonna eat something that's not too good, or do something that's not too good for you, or drink
Yeah,
alcohol, and then you
it
just got
limits your potential.
yeah, it does, man. And then you just gotta go back to that same job because you gotta pay for that alcohol, and it's just like a whole fucking cycle that never ends. And people get stuck in that
Yeah,
cycle all the time, man. And sometimes I just want to shake people and be like, you don't need this, right? If you don't have, like you were saying, if you don't have any reasons to get drunk, you're not gonna get drunk.
yeah.
And
Because
that's the number one thing.
here people do it to escape. It's done for social lubricant. It's done because they have unresolved trauma and issues that they're not dealing with. And when you, even if you don't even have any serious issues, like drinking, it's much easier to grab a bag of chips or order pizza when you have a few glasses of wine or beer into you than it is without it.
Of course,
And
right? Of
I think drugs and alcohol prevents you from becoming self-actualized. And I'm not demonizing them because like I said, I mean, I'll have a glass of wine as an ornament to my culinary experience, but that's about it.
course.
And I mean, I honestly, I drink coffee, and I love coffee. Like I love the taste of it. I'm the type of person, I love strong flavor. I like curry. I like spicy food. I like dark chocolate. I like coffee. If I drink tea, I like the strong, like chai tea. Like
Mm.
that's just how I am. Like I eat raw radishes. I was eating raw garlic when I was a kid. I like strong flavors. Now, I actually didn't drink coffee for a while, and I started drinking it, and I was like, oh man, I miss this. Like I love the flavor. Like it's a good experience for me. But once it starts to become a supplement, I think that's when we should kind of kick back a bit. But for a lot of people, I mean, coffee is just a supplement. I mean, Tim Hortons coffee. I'm sorry, but it sucks. And if you're getting Tim's coffee, it's because you need it. You need it to function, to get through your day, and you need to like focus on the 6 things you talked about. That's how you truly get through your day: the nutrition, the movement, the sleep, the nature, the quality relationships, and the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And the relationship with yourself, I believe, also includes the way we talk to ourselves. If you don't talk to yourself, you should start, because it's crazy that you don't. And you got because you got to have positive self-talk, and you got to you got to give yourself pep talks sometimes, and
Yeah.
you know you know what I
Not,
mean.
not to be delusional, but sometimes, yeah, you gotta be, okay, I
Yeah,
can do this. You have to believe in yourself a little bit if you want to achieve a few things here and there. For
that's
sure.
right, man. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, as a casual mountain biker as myself, who's like afraid to hit those crazy jumps, not even afraid, I just don't even know how. But I also try to be extra careful on the trails because of my previous injuries. I don't want to re-injure anything.
Yeah.
And man, you've probably been to White Rock. I've seen some freaking slopes that are like, they're like straight down. I'm like, how do people go down those? So what would you tell a mountain biker? I mean, if there's anything you could give me for advice, what would you give without actually showing me anything?
Um, I think there's like two important aspects. There's definitely one that is how much practice you actually get on the bike. Like I've been riding bike for so long that I'm more agile on a bike than I am on my feet, which is kind of crazy. Like when I'm on the bike, I feel like it's second nature to me. Like I don't, it's kind of like crazy to explain, but feels like I'm one with the bike. Like I know where everything is. I know how my brake works. Like everything is just, and I don't even think about it. We were talking about the power of now, but you really get into that now and you don't think about anything.
Yeah.
But the second part is definitely like your equipment, the bikes they make nowadays. Like if you have $1,000 bike versus a $10,000 bike, well, it is going to make a big difference in your progress, which is kind
Oh,
of
really?
sad. It's pretty sad, but it's definitely not going to make you have, I don't know, more fun. Like, you can definitely have a lot of fun on $1,000 bike. But if you want to take it to the next level, you may have to get a bit of a better bike eventually or something.
Man, you ever watch that guy on YouTube? I forget his name, but my barber, Jeff Doherty, by the way, if anybody's in Moncton and wants a great haircut, Jeff Doherty in Riverview. Shout out. I go mountain biking with him. Anyway, he puts on mountain biking videos. He probably actually puts on some of yours because he said he knew who you were when I told him I was going to have you on my podcast.
Okay.
Because he watches mountain biking videos. But anyways, he watches this one guy, and he's like, this guy's British, and he'll buy Walmart bikes and take him down these like intense trails and tracks, and just just to prove that
Paul the punter.
yeah, probably, and just to prove that you can have fun.
Yeah, he lives here. He lives here in Squamish.
Does he?
Yeah.
Do you know him?
My roommates have lived with him, so they told me about him.
Oh, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, he's just like living the life, eh?
Yeah, that's what he does, man. He just does crazy videos like that. Like I think he took like a $600 like Walmart bike and brought it down Whistler or something.
Oh man, that's unreal. I love that. I think we actually watched that one, honestly, just recently.
Yeah.
But my battery is at 10%, so it lasts long. It's an iPhone.
We can wrap this up, man. I'm sure we have like an hour something now.
Oh yeah, man, we got enough time. But is there anything else you wanted to add or talk about before we wrap it up?
Good question. I'm just gonna check. I had some little notes here that I took. I wanted to talk to you maybe about just about nutrition in general. Like, I want to know, and I'm going to tell you mine after, but I want to know like your nutrition philosophy, kind of what you're into and what works. I know you always talk about fasting for sure, and then you've lost a lot of weight, so you're definitely in a calorie deficit for sure. I want to know like what kind of food are you prioritizing in your diet usually?
Well, I went through about every diet on my journey, and I suffered with a lot of digestive problems like leaky gut, intestinal permeability. I had autoimmune reactions like rosacea and skin problems and stuff. And yeah, like I actually started off vegetarian, then I was vegan for a while, and then through my own research and just in life, you meet people who teach you certain things. I started to connect and learn how first of all, I learned about the gut-brain connection, how the food affects our brain and our digestive system. And I also discovered a lot about like plants, and most importantly, seeds, nuts, legumes, grains, all that stuff, which are seeds, which are plant babies, which have a defense mechanism. Nature protects its babies by having these like lectins and phytic acid, which are the chemicals that sort of the plant has to protect itself. And so when we eat a lot of grains, it ends up causing a digestive discomfort. We're actually supposed to sprout and ferment our food. That's the best, most optimal way to eat grains. Now, I actually ended up, I didn't even want to eat meat again. I'm going to do a whole podcast on this another time, so I'm just going to give you a glimpse of it. But I didn't want to eat meat again, but I ended up researching about grass-fed beef and pasture-raised animals and stuff, and how they're better for you. And bone broth. I had bone broth before the podcast tonight. And anyway, I kind of accepted the fact that I had to eat animals again if I wanted to heal my gut, pretty much. Because everything was like cut out grains, eat easily digestible foods and healthy fats and omega-3s and stuff. And so I did, and I felt way better. I was able to clear up the rest of my health problems. My digestive system healed. The food sensitivities I had reversed. And I was able to start eating food that I couldn't eat before once again. And then I ended up being keto. And then you met Olivier. He's been carnivore for over a year now. I tried that. Not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was getting into is how I learned that all food is good in moderation if we
Mm-hmm.
get it from the right, best possible source,
Mm-hmm.
and if we prepare it in the best possible way. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm all about that. I do believe in fasting. I do think that's good. I think it's good for everybody to experience if they're like most people can fast. It's rare that people can't, but it happens. Talk to your doctor if you want to try
Yeah,
it, obviously.
apparently with women, it's a little different when they fast because I'm not sure. I think it's something to do with their
Yeah,
hormones.
yeah, it's their hormones.
It's like not that healthy. Yeah, not that healthy for them to fast. But
Yeah,
men definitely something healthy to do.
and when they say that, they mean like it's not healthy for women to fast for extended periods, for like long periods of time, for like uh, you know months or years on end.
Yeah, multiple day fast. Yeah,
Yeah,
too.
but like there's moderation for everything. So I've learned moderation. Everything's good. I've also think that diets can be used as tools for people.
Yeah.
Like I think the keto diet can have like benefits because when you're in the keto diet, like when you're in ketosis, you're not hungry. Like you're not thinking about
Mm,
food. You're not looking for that dopamine fix through the carbohydrates. I believe
yeah.
in carbohydrates. I believe in fiber. I think it's good for you. I feel better when I eat a variety of everything. I like to
Yeah.
I like to go into ketosis when I like and entering a fast. It's just easier to enter a fast when you follow a keto diet. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much it for me, man. Like without going into huge detail. What about you?
Man, I think you're at the same spot as me, whereas you'll never make $1 million selling your diet philosophy because it's just like it's nothing extreme, you know? You're not
Yeah.
selling any supplements, you're not selling anything extreme. Uh, and yeah, fasting is free. You're never gonna be able to sell something about fasting, and that's kind of the way I've been eating as well. In terms of like, I've spent a lot of years when I was, at the end of high school. I'm 25 right now, so the end of high school is like 7 years ago. I was eating, I thought anyway, the best way to eat was like eat rice and chicken and broccoli every meal, with eggs in the morning, just doing that good old bodybuilding diet. And eventually I kind of realized that I needed a lot more stuff than that, a lot more variety. And I've done kind of like you did there. I've went back and forth on all types of diets, and then for the past like 5 years, I've just been doing this thing where I know what my body likes and dislikes. That's number one. I know that my body does really well on a lot of fish, probably because my grandpa was a fisherman at some point.
Oh, cool. I like
Um,
that.
that's probably like in my, heritage, genetics. And I do well on a lot of fish, lots of fruits and vegetables as well, and lean meats as well. I try to stay away from processed foods as much as I can. So typical grocery will just be like fruits and veggies, lean meats, and some fish, and maybe like some peanut. Like the most processed foods I'll get will be like a sourdough bread or maybe like peanut butter or that type of stuff, which is not like
Yeah.
crazy it's still not like ultra processed, right?
Yeah.
But it's been to a point where I kind of eat. I'm like a 50% vegan. So the way, like, I know vegans who probably don't eat as much vegetables as I do, and that's what I mean by that. You kind of be,
Yeah.
like I get a lot of messages, people saying like, "Oh, are you vegan or vegetarian or whatever? You seem to be eating lots of fruits and vegetables." Well, it's like you can eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and also eat meat. You don't have to, cut everything out or whatever. You just have to be smart about what you do. But yeah, in the past few years, I've tried to get as much local stuff as possible. And because I've realized the connection between the soil and our microbiome as well,
Yeah.
how important it is to get something that's close to your home base and close to the dirt you actually play in and walk around.
Absolutely.
And organic as much as possible. I try to not fall into like the traps of buying crazy expensive organic foods in the organic section or whatever. I try to, like I said, get some local organic stuff.
Yeah.
Farmers markets.
Local farmers market stuff's cheaper than organic.
Yeah.
The organic section at the store, which is kind of misleading in a way, because I think people are thrown off by that. They're like, "Oh, organic, like freaking broccoli is like $7 for like a small head of broccoli at like a really small head of broccoli at Superstore, for example." And then you go to local market, certified organic, $5 for giant head of broccoli.
Yeah.
No tax or anything. And then I mean, you don't even have to get organic. You can still get local and non-organic stuff that is
Still better, yeah.
Sometimes it's not even labeled as organic, and it is grown that way. So
yeah, and it's also like we were saying earlier about like caffeine and alcohol. Well, if you like, I hear people saying all the time like, "Oh, I couldn't eat the way you eat because it's so expensive." Well, if you don't spend $400 of alcohol a month and $200 in coffee, well, it turns out you can actually afford, organic good food.
yeah, man, that's so true.
It's all about priorities, right? And I feel like people are always trying to budget, and trying to be like, "Oh no, I can only spend this much money on food or whatever." But if health is your priority, then you know what? It shouldn't matter, what type of couch you're sitting on. It should matter whatever you're putting in your mouth to eat.
That's right. You hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I'm gonna have to wrap it up. Maybe we can talk again sometime, because I'm afraid my phone's gonna die.
It's good, man.
And I'm afraid that I'll lose the recording if that happens.
Yeah.
But where can people find you? Like, you have a YouTube channel where you post your mountain biking videos, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna start posting more, maybe fitness content as well eventually, or other types of content. So if people want to follow it, you'll put a link somewhere, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna put the links in the show notes and everything.
Yeah.
That we all need to find you. But that'll be awesome, man. It was nice talking to you. Brought out some great topics and great conversations. I like that caffeine thing. I was actually thinking about taking a caffeine break for a bit.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. Like, coffee is a drug. Like, it does give you a buzz, and I just love the taste. So.
Oh yeah, it hits your dopamine freaking.
I half wonder if I even if I like the taste, or if my brain just tells me I like the taste because it has an effect.
Probably the latter. Yeah.
Yeah, just weird thing.
Anyway, man, you got to get to bed. I see you're pretty tired. It must be like almost midnight back home. So.
Oh yeah, man. It's almost midnight. So nice chat, man. Have a good day. Take it easy.
All right.
Thank you so much, as always, for listening to Best Interest Radio. If you like listening to the show, please leave an iTunes review. And if you'd like to, you can leave a donation using the PayPal link in the description to support my vision, which I believe is also our vision of creating a better world in our best interest. And be sure to subscribe for future episodes. And if you want to find me on social media, my Instagram handle is bestinterest.me, which is pretty much the same all around.